thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Toyota Phillies Wall of Fame night. A yearly tradition in which former Phillies greats who comprise our rich history return to this majestic diamond. We thank Toyota for their continued support and sponsorship of the Phillies Wall of Fame. Tonight, our 2025 inductees, Ed Wade and Jimmy Rollins. Will enter the Toyota Phillies Wall of Fame, a tradition that began in 1978 at Veterans Stadium. And now, please welcome to the stage those players upon whom the Phillies have bestowed one of the club's highest honors. Dan?
Scott Rollins. Manny Trio. Pat Gillick. Charlie Manuel. Mike Lieberthal. John Kruk. Juan Samuel. Bob Boone. Gary Maddox. Greg Luzinski. Larry Boa. Mike Schmidt. Steve Carlton.
Please welcome to the stage Phillies managing partner and CEO, John Middleton. One year ago, with John's vision, the Phillies began the tradition of honoring our Wall of Fame inductees with their own commemorative ring. John joins us on stage tonight to present our honorees with their rings. But first, our 2023 inductee was not able to join us for last year's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, receiving his Hall of Fame ring tonight, Scott Rollins. Thank you, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I am deeply honored to be on this stage as we forever cement the legacies of two men whose contributions both on and off the field were integral in bringing a long-awaited championship home to Philadelphia. Ed Wade, the club's 6th executive inductee into our Toyota Phillies Wall of Fame, is responsible for drafting and developing much of the core of a historic 2008 World Championship team. Jimmy Rollins, the club's all-time hits leader, 4-time Gold Glove winning shortstop, and spark plug of 5 National League East titles, served as the face of the franchise for 15 seasons with the Phillies. Together, they comprise an impressive Wall of Fame class of 2025, and the Phillies are honored tonight to pay them tribute. And with that, we now invite former Phillies manager Larry Bowa to the podium to speak about our first inductee, Ed Wade.
Thanks, T-Mac. Good evening, everyone. What a great night for a baseball game. First of all, I want to welcome John Middleton and our ownership group, along with my fellow Phillies alumni, family, friends, and of course, the best fans in all of baseball. It's always a privilege to stand up here on a night like this, where we honor our shared history and celebrate the people who were an integral part of our success over the years. Tonight, we welcome a new name to the Phillies Wall of Fame, someone who's had a tremendous impact on this organization, my good friend, Ed Wade. Ed's vision, dedication, and leadership was the foundation for one of the most successful eras in Phillies history. Ed inherited a struggling team and began the patient, strategic process of constructing a roster built for a long-term success, much like the 1980 World Championship team. He drafted smart and developed talent the right way, and ultimately laid the foundation for the 2008 World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies. That team was loaded with players that Ed either drafted, signed, or developed, many of whom are with us tonight. Players like Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Cole Hamels, Carlos Ruiz, Ryan Matson, and he also signed Jim Thome, who at that time was the top free agent in baseball. It not only changed the culture of the clubhouse, it had a major impact on the trajectory of our franchise, and it made my job a heck of a lot easier to put Thome in the lineup. Ed, we hope you know how much we as an organization, as a fan base, and our city appreciate the many magic moments you provided us. Welcome to the Wall of Fame, Ed. Please direct your attention to Fanavision for a short video.
In 1998, after spending almost a decade in the front office, Ed Wade was named Phillies general manager. He inherited a second-tier ball club with an aging stadium and a skeptical fan base. But Ed Wade had a plan, get good, and stay good. I was lucky enough to join Ed as assistant GM the following year, and I got a front row seat to a masterclass on how to build a champion.
He just had a knack for finding the right talent and understanding the significance of what it is to play Philly baseball.
He's a very knowledgeable baseball man. That came to my attention real quick.
You know, my first impression of Ed was he was a very serious person. He took a lot of pride in what he did with the Phillies.
Ed is remarkably thorough. He can think big picture, but he has a great ability to take the big picture and reduce it down to all the necessary details to implement.
When you think of baseball and you see Ed Wade, it's like they didn't go together.
You kind of looked at Ed and he had this sort of professorial look to him. Behind that was a fierce competitor.
You could irk him a little bit, maybe make him a little bit upset, but the next day it was always over with Ed, and I always respected that about him.
Ed's got a very good sense of humor, very dry. He can be funny, he can be really funny.
My first hit is a grand slam, which is like, you can't even fathom thinking about that as a kid. But Ed Wade, Larry Boa, and John Kruk called me into Larry Boa's office. At first, I was kind of buying it, honestly, because Ed Wade was in there.
We had some problems with you. They didn't put you on the roster. The computer work didn't get done when we made the recall from Scranton, tried to rush to get him off the bus.
Because Ed Wade was serious, you know, he didn't mess around. I saw him in there and I realized, okay, this must be real.
You know what the biggest problem is with this whole thing? Do you honestly think Major League Baseball would make me a member of the World Cup?
You think about where the Phillies were when Ed was named general manager. They were the bottom of the National League. They didn't have a lot of talent.
When he told me, I think we got a shot at Jim Thome, I went, what?
He wrote an email, a really heartfelt email to Jim Thome. Jim and his wife both said that email meant a lot to them on a personal level and was a big factor in the reason why they chose Philadelphia.
And to get Jim Thome at that time when we were coming into the new ballpark was pretty special.
Free agents are great, but eventually you have to go down on that farm system and you need people to come up through the system.
How can you argue with the job they did? Look at the nucleus they brought to the majors with Jimmy, Chase, Ryan, Cole Hamels, Ruiz, Burrell. All those guys came through the system.
Being able to develop homegrown talent and then just add pieces to that homegrown talent with us all learning through the minor leagues what we were taught was the Philly way.
He said there's like a 5-year plan with these guys to get up here. Some years in the minor leagues, and give us about 5 years of being big leaguers, and we should be good.
Ed was not afraid to pull the trigger on a move, even if it was unpopular to the fan base.
He hired Charlie Manuel.
They bring in all of these accomplished managers. Jim Leland was definitely brought in, and that's the guy that everybody wanted.
And Ed took heat for it. Charlie was kicked around like an old football for a while.
Ed was really positive about his team, and he was definitely trying to set up a club that could win and get to the World Series and stuff. That was what he was all about.
And he was just a fun guy to be around. Surely it was different, but I think it's what we needed at the time.
It goes back to the Phillies way and Ed's vision. He knew what players he wanted. He knew what scouts he needed and player development people. He also knew what major league manager and coaching staff he needed.
They did get good and stay good. It just took a while.
He was driven to win, to prove that he knew what it took and how to make it work.
His fingerprints were all over that trophy.
I think a lot of the credit for this celebration tonight should go to Ed Wade because he put together a lot of this team. 3/4 of our infield, Cole Hamels, Pat Burrell, they're all guys that...
You did make the addition of Matt Stairs, and that was a big home run.
I kind of filled in around what Ed had in place, and so a lot of credit should go to Ed Wade and his group because they did a tremendous job getting the nucleus here in Philadelphia.
Baseball is his passion. This town is his passion. He loved this city. He loved the Phillies of old. He cared a lot about the history of this team. And so it didn't go unnoticed when we won that, you know, he was kind of the architect behind it all.
All those players who came in, they're his legacy. And their legacy is the 2008 World Championship. It's 5 division titles in a row. It's the 2009 NLCS Championship. And boy, if that's not worth honoring, you might as well get rid of the Wall of Fame.
And to honor that vision, we are proud to induct Ed Wade onto the Phillies Wall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 Phillies Wall of Fame inductee, Ed Wade. Ed, would you like to do the honors?
Good evening. First of all, thanks, Tom. First, I want to express my appreciation to John Middleton and the entire Phillies organization for this unbelievable honor. As you can imagine, for a guy from Carbondale, Pennsylvania, to be standing here today, there had to be literally hundreds of people who have helped me on my journey, and I've been spending the past days, weeks, and months reaching out to as many of them as possible to express my appreciation, while at the same time remembering many of those who are no longer with us, like Lee Thomas, Dave Montgomery, Dallas Green, Paul Owens, John Vukovic, and Lee Elia. But there are a few groups that I do want to thank today. The first is my family. I started as an intern for Larry Shank in the Phillies PR department in 1977. And one night during a game at the Vet, I was standing at the 4th floor elevator, waiting to take something to the clubhouse. While I was standing there, one of the Phillies usherettes, then known as Hot Pants Girls, walked up. I said hello, she said hello. Her name was Roxanne Fanfrillo, and she was an elementary school special education teacher from Glassboro. This past January, Roxanne and I celebrated our 44th wedding anniversary. And yes, Gary Maddox was the best man at my wedding. It seems as if almost every great moment in my life started at a ballpark. So to Roxanne, our son Ryan, and our daughters Erin and Maureen, thank you for your love, your support, and your patience, lots of patience, as I chase my major league dreams. The next groups I want to thank are my Phillies colleagues, my loyal partners in the front office who showed up every day to make this one of the greatest organizations in sports. Our major league players, managers, coaches, and trainers, the ground crew, the guys in the clubhouses, and our day of game employees. To our great scouting staff led by Mike Arbuckle and Marty Wolliver for their tireless efforts which led to the signing of the core group of the 2008 World Series champions, including my co-recipient Jimmy Rollins and several of the other gentlemen seated here today. To our minor league managers, coaches, instructors, and trainers, who, when I called upon them to develop our prospects, quote unquote, the Phillies way, jumped at the opportunity and took up the challenge because they knew what it takes to wear the red pinstripes in the city of Philadelphia. The final group that I want to thank, I can do so with a very short but very true story. Several times upon returning from spring training and before the gates were open, I stood on the empty field at ballparks both here and at the Vet, and I looked around and picked a seat far from home plate. Then I walked the ramps and climbed the stairs until I was standing in front of the seat which I had selected. As I stood looking at that seat, I said to myself, if you ever forget who you truly work for, it's the person who will someday sit in that seat. Because the people who I really worked for, the people who the gentleman seated behind me really worked for, and the people who the gentleman in that first base dugout now work for, are you, the fans. So on behalf of all of us, thank you, God bless you, and let's go Phillies.
Thank you, Ed. And now we ask that you make your way over as John presents you with your Wall of Fame ring. Well, Ed, thank you once again. As has been talked about on several occasions, is the contribution that Ed had made to the organization and some of the people who he drafted and signed over the years. One of those players Ed developed in the system and promoted to the big leagues is our next honoree. And here tonight to speak about Jimmy, please welcome Ryan Howard.
Oh man, here we go. What's up, everybody? Now, I get the distinct honor to introduce my little big bro, my man, young James, Jimmy Rollins. Now, what a summer it's been for young James. Now, for everybody who didn't know, he's quite the golfer. And he goes out on national TV, hits a hole-in-one, and wins a boat. Because that's just what he does. And now, my boy is being inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame. It's been a pretty great summer for Jimmy, but honestly, he's made all of our summers better for years. Now, back in 1996, the Phillies took a chance, this man right here, Ed Wade, took a chance on a kid from high school from California. Second round of the draft. It was a bold move, but with a shortstop with big potential. But what they didn't know then, what none of us knew, was just how legendary that pick would turn out to be. Because Jimmy didn't just live up to expectations, he redefined them. Now, we all know how shy Jimmy is. You know, it takes a lot to get him to talk. But for some reason, in 2007, Jimmy stood up and said that we were the team to beat. Now listen, a lot of people talk, but Jimmy meant it. He believed it. And with that belief, it was contagious. Now he backed it up with an MVP season and led all of us to greatness. That wasn't just the confidence, but that was the leadership that Jimmy always showed. Now, he's the Phillies' all-time hits leader in at-bats and doubles. And we used to always say, you go, we go. And Jimmy always went. And on defense, man, he was one of the best to ever do it. Now, I barely had to move my glove, except for those ones where he threw me that little cutter that just got just a little bit on the side. But for the most part, he would hit me in my chest. I see you over there, Jay. I know you're going to get me, bro, but it's all good. But he was one of the best from shortstop, and I loved every minute of being out there on that diamond with him. And there's so many moments that we could talk about. The walk-off against Broxton in '09. The 38-game hitting streak. And the diving stop that he made in 2008. But no matter what the moment, it always came with that signature J-Roll smile. Now, Jimmy's got all the accolades, All-Stars, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, MVP, World Series champ. But the title that means the most to me is that he's my friend. He's been a mentor and a brother, someone who's always had my back on and off the field. So, young James, I thank you, bro. I congratulate you for the brotherhood, for the memories, and for leading the way. And now, let's take a look at a tribute for the one and only, my man, young James, J-Roll, Phillies legend, and my forever teammate.
Jimmy Rollins is a switch hitter, just 21 years of age. Second round pick of the Phillies in the 96 draft. Jimmy Rollins is going to get his first major league hit. One hopping off the fence and watch him fly. It's going to be a triple. Rollins heading for third, head first slide. He's there with a triple.
Well, first of all, when you talk about Jimmy Rollins, you have to smile. You know, Jimmy just had that kind of vibe to him, that things would just happen as if he was the magician creating it.
Watch J-Roll run. He's going to score inside the park. Home run.
There isn't a thing on the baseball field that Jimmy couldn't do.
Beat you with his legs, beat you with his glove, beat you with his bat. Knowledge of the game was off the charts.
It was just this swagger and this confidence that would just exude. It would just come out in his game.
He was never afraid to be great. He always wanted the big moment. He was a red light player all the way through.
Jimmy Rollins has hit safely in 32 consecutive games, an all-time Phillies record.
For a little guy with power was pretty surprising. You know, we knew Jimmy could run, we knew Jimmy could field, but we didn't know Jimmy can hit home runs. So to have that kind of pop, a switch hitter, was just something you don't see.
He had that drive to be the best as a leadoff hitter, to be the best as a base stealer, and definitely to be the best as a defensive shortstop.
His personality was as big as his play. If you can thrive off that, you're going to be a stud player.
He always had that swagger that he felt like he could beat anybody.
You know, J-Roll was one of my favorites to watch. He made a difference. You know, when he was in the lineup, it always seemed like Jimmy was just out there, you know, playing a game, just like Little League, you know, out there just, you know, dominating and enjoying it.
I think it's impossible to do well unless you're enjoying yourself, and I think it's safe to say not so many people had more fun playing baseball than Jimmy did.
Jimmy knew how good he was, and he weren't shy about it.
And to play in Philly, you know, you got to be ready to go, and Jimmy embraced that.
Jimmy was a leader by example, the way he went about his business, the way he played the game.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy didn't hold back really on what he had to say.
I think we ought to see him beating the NL East, you know, finally.
But, you know, Jimmy being Jimmy, that's the way he wanted to do it.
It is out of here! 3-run home run, Jimmy Rollins.
That comment in 07 is the spark that lit the fire.
It elevated all of us, because now we had to back up what he was saying.
Triple number 20 for Jimmy Rollins. He has gotten to 20, and 20. How's that for an MVP?
He played all 162 games. He gets 20 triples, 30 home runs, over 200 hits, wins a Gold Glove, and becomes the National League MVP. Every day he wore that comment, backed it up. He willed that team to the division title.
The Phillies are National League East champions.
When the lights are bright and they're on, young James, man, J-Roll come out.
But when you have a leader at the top of your lineup who set the table early at how we were going to play in our approach, everyone just jumped on his back and we all followed.
I would say no moment too big for Jimmy, because he was always the same, but he always came up big in the big moments.
The Phillies have won the ball game. Rollins has won it. Jimmy Rollins has made his mark in this series.
know, it's called the show for a reason. You know, you're going out there and you're putting on a show for the fans, and he enjoyed every minute of it.
He was a light, like shines, especially when the big moment comes in a game.
It's just the glow that he has. He has the it factor, if you will.
Jimmy Rollins is now the franchise leader in base hits.
He just had that aura about him. He ended up being, in my opinion, the greatest shortstop in Phillies history. Brilliant defensively. He put up some Hall of Fame caliber numbers offensively. He was kind of the total package.
He's everything the Phillies talk about. You know, he has grit. He plays with passion. He can beat you in all kinds of different ways, and he showed up and did it every day.
Swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Jimmy was the leader. Jimmy cared deeply about winning. He cared deeply about his teammates. You take him out of the equation, I don't know that any of that happens. That's his legacy.
And there were definitely days that you put us on your backs and carried us through. That it takes more than one player to bring home a championship. And this is what we got here. Thank you.
Go ahead, come on, get to your feet. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Rollins.
So, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, first and foremost, there's some important people here that saw this long before I did. And they're sitting right there, and that's my mom and dad, Gigi and Big Jim. And some other people over there. My cousin Marcel, who put the bat in my hand first. My brother Antoine, who hated the shag, but he loved to hit. Made us do all the cleaning up. And then I'm glad that I have my 3 daughters here with me to see this moment. In 1996 was the year I was drafted, and there was an important decision to be made. And this man right here, Ed Wade, along with others, which I had to get the draft room names, Lee Thomas, Mike Arbuckle, Dale Unser, the scout Bob Poole, who actually said I was 5'9", but I'm only 5'7". I had nothing to do with that. And Marty Wolliver. He wanted to make sure, well, Bob Poole that is, that my height did not get in the way of Ed's decision. And Ed, I think it was a pretty good decision. There's no speech, Bo. There's no speech, brother. That's not what I do. So, we're here, and I get to join all of these old guys on this stage. And I tried for years to put this off. And then I got a phone call from John Middleton And when he calls, I knew it was serious. And he said, hey, we want to put you on the wall, and we want to put David Montgomery also, who is no longer with us. And it was an easy decision for me. Well, one, I would never dare go in before Dave Montgomery. We know what he means to the city, to this team, and to all of us on the stage. And two, it bought me another year. But we're here now. And I was, thinking of things to say and how I want to say it, because I never write anything down, because I just like to really be in the moment. And more than anything, I want to thank this organization. I want to thank these fans. I want to thank this city for everything that I've become wearing this uniform. You always hear that Philly is a tough place to play, and it is. It's a very tough place to play if you don't want to win, if you're soft, if you don't want to go out there and give your all for the fans that pay their money to watch us play. And for a long time, we were chasing ghosts, the ghosts of the 1980 championship team, which these guys played on. And it was hanging over our heads, and not as just players, but over this city. It had been a long time since a championship had come to the city. And I got to play for Larry Boa, who was my first manager. And I told him, when this place gets built, this is going to be my home. You guys built the vet. But when we go to the Citizens Bank Park, we're going to win our championship there, and that's going to be our home. But what made it special was this right here. All the fans, that when visiting teams came to this ballpark, they knew they had their handfuls. One, we had a great team. But two, they knew they had to deal with you guys. Being in that bullpen, yeah, that's not easy on those pitches out there. They wanted nothing to do with this ballpark. We hear stories about 2008 and how the fans used to ride the Rays family section. We appreciate that. Yeah, had those players going home worried about their families and not about the baseball game. Trust me, we appreciate that. But the energy that you gave us every time we stepped in this ballpark, you wanted us to do well. If we didn't do well, you let us know. And that spurred us to go on further. You saw the smile that I had. It wasn't always because I was happy to be out here, which I was. It was just sometimes I'd have to remember to look up in the sky and remember it's blue, and that I was once in those stands. So if I'm not doing my job, I was once that kid watching that big league player asking why he wasn't doing his job. That's nothing to clap for. But you guys brought out the best in all of us. 2008 being our World Series season, 2007 trying to get in that first taste, 05 and 06 coming up short. You guys supported us all through it. And after we won the World Series, we celebrated here in front of all you guys, but that crowd coming down Broad Street, oh my God, that was bananas. We enjoyed every single moment. The only thing that we fell short of was winning more than one. And so as I tell these guys in this dugout, I send them like, hey, I hope you get tired of hearing about the 2008 World Series team. The same way we were tired about hearing about the 1980 World Series team. And there's only one way to replace that, and that's going to get a World Series of your own. I love you too. The fans are here. They want to see it. I want to see it. We didn't win just for it to go away. We want you guys to keep that legacy going forward, to get that ring. There's nothing better than winning a championship here in Philadelphia for these people in front of this crowd, representing this city. It's our names on the back, but we all represent Philly across the front. So thank you, Philadelphia, for letting me represent you guys for 14 years in this ballpark the city of brotherly love, the city that's going to push you forward, the city that's going to make you great. It wasn't me. It was you guys pushing me to greatness, and thank you.
As Jimmy makes his way around the dais, John will present him with his Phillies Wall of Fame ring. Jimmy and Ed, it's time to head out to the wall to make it official. Unveiling Wall of Fame plaques for both the 49th and 50th inductees. He has a storied history with both and with this great city. Chase on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the newest members of the Toyota Phillies Wall of Fame, Ed Wade and Jimmy Rollins. And ladies and gentlemen, as is tradition, we now invite our Wall of Fame inductees to take their victory lap around the field.